All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle a massive question today. What exactly is the state? And where did it even come from? Is it this noble guardian, this protector that we all create for our own good? Or is it something else? Something a little more sinister?
See, most of us grow up with the story on the left, the contractarian view. You know the one. Life is chaotic, so we all agree to form a government to keep the peace. The state is the solution. But there's this other, much more radical idea, the predatory view. It argues that the state isn't the solution, it's the problem, that it uses its power to prey on its own citizens. It's a heavy idea, so let's really dive in.
So here's how we're going to break down this argument. First, we'll look at this idea of a predator state. Then, we'll see how war, of all things, actually builds nations. After that, we'll get into the really provocative claim that the state is basically a protection racket. And finally, we'll ask the big question. If all this is true, is the state just a necessary evil?
Okay, so to get our heads around this, we have to start with a political scientist, Charles Tilly. This is the guy who just completely flipped the script on how we're taught to think about where government comes from.
And this right here is his most famous line. It's the key to this whole thing. War makes the state, and states make war. Now that's not just a clever little phrase. He's saying there's a powerful, self-perpetuating cycle here. Violence is literally baked into the DNA of the modern state.
And that leads us to this central puzzle Tilly throws at us. Think about it. The whole reason for having a state, supposedly, is that we can't trust individuals not to hurt each other. So why on earth should we trust a single organization with a monopoly on violence? An organization with more power than any one of us could ever dream of. What's keeping it in check?
So how does this cycle actually work? How does war make a state? Well, Tilly's big argument is that the modern state was basically an accident. Nobody sat down and designed it. It was an unintentional byproduct of centuries of just brutal, relentless conflict. And this is the absolute crucial point. Early kings and rulers, they weren't trying to be nation builders. They weren't trying to serve the people. They were warlords, and they cared about one thing and one thing only: staying alive, staying in power, and crushing their rivals. Everything else, everything we now think of as a state, grew out of that one simple, selfish goal.
So to survive, these warlords had to get really good at juggling four things at once. First, war-making, fighting off other warlords outside their territory. Second, state-making, crushing rebels and rivals inside their territory. Third, protection, defending the rich merchants and allies who funded them. And fourth, extraction, getting the money and resources, taxes, plunder, to pay for the other three.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. These four jobs create this powerful feedback loop. You see, to get better at war, you need more money. To get more money, you have to control your territory better, which means crushing your internal rivals. And when you control your territory better, guess what? You're stronger for the next war. It all feeds on itself, and the engine for this entire machine is monopolizing violence. And this slide shows the incredible result of all that. In the process of just trying to get better at fighting and taxing, these rulers accidentally built the entire scaffolding of a modern state. They needed efficient tax collectors, so boom, you get treasuries. They needed to keep the population in line, so they create police forces. They needed loans and support, so they cut deals with powerful classes like merchants. None of this was for the good of the people. It was all about becoming a more efficient war machine.
And this whole process wasn't happening in a bubble, right? As these powerful states started to form, they created an international system. Suddenly, they were loaning each other money for wars, fighting over the same pieces of land, and making and breaking alliances. The internal need for survival in one place created an entire external system of competition and conflict everywhere else.
Okay, so if that's the origin story of the state, what does it mean for its relationship with its own people? Well, this brings us to Tilly's most shocking, most famous claim, that at its core, a state, even a legitimate one, operates just like organized crime. I mean, just think about what a protection racket is. Some mobster walks in your shop and says, "Hey, nice place. Be ashamed if something happened to it. You pay me and I'll make sure nothing bad happens." Of course, the threat is him. Tilly says states do the exact same thing. They demand taxes for protection, but who are they protecting you from? Often, it's from the chaos that would erupt if the state itself collapsed, or from the state's own power to punish you if you don't pay up. So why in the world do people put up with this?
Well, because smart rulers figured something out that dumb thugs never do. Pure predation, it's not actually very profitable in the long run. If you just take everything, your people will stop working, they'll hide their wealth, or they'll just revolt. The whole economy grinds to a halt. The smarter play is to offer some real stability and security in exchange for those taxes.
And that leads to this concept of quasi-voluntary compliance. It's this uneasy bargain at the absolute heart of the modern state. We pay our taxes. Maybe we grumble about it, but we do it because deep down we feel like we're getting something for our money. That protection isn't just from foreign armies anymore. It's paved roads, it's schools, it's stable commerce. The state might have started as a predator, but it's a predator that learned it pays to keep its prey, that's us, healthy and productive. So get this. This is the crucial takeaway. Limited government wasn't just born from some lofty philosophical idea about rights and freedoms. For a long, long time, it was also just the most profitable business model. By holding back a little, by not being total tyrants, rulers actually encouraged economic growth, and that meant there was a much bigger pie to take a slice from. And a smaller piece of a giant pie is way better than the whole thing of a tiny shriveled one. Wow. Okay, this is a pretty grim picture, isn't it? If the state is basically just the most successful protection racket in history, is it actually necessary? Could we, do without it? Could we organize society and cooperate on our own? Well, according to the theory, yeah, it's possible. People aren't just automatically doomed to a life of chaos without a big government watching over them. But, and this is a huge but, there's a big catch.
See, in theory, we can all cooperate, as long as we know we have to deal with each other tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. Your reputation matters. You have a reason to be fair. The problem is, that kind of decentralized cooperation is incredibly fragile. It's just one possible outcome. Conflict, betrayal, chaos, those are always on the table, too.
And this is exactly why most societies don't go the route of anarchy. The sheer work of keeping order without a central authority is exhausting. You'd have to constantly monitor everyone. If someone cheats you, you have to be the one to punish them. The state, for all its predatory flaws, basically outsources all that difficult, messy work for us. So we're left with this really challenging final thought. The state, in this view, wasn't born from some noble agreement. It was forged in violence by warlords hungry for power. It's not the ideal solution we might have designed from scratch, but it might just be the most efficient one we've stumbled upon for getting millions of people to cooperate. So the real question for all of us living today is this: how does an organization that started as a protection racket eventually earn our trust and become legitimate in our eyes?